What kind of a hand have we been dealt as women today, and how can we best play it? It's a large question that's always lurking in the background, and since the answers aren't obvious, I find women's lives to be immediately suspenseful and interesting. Don't you? Wait a minute. Who am I? I'm Abigail L. Rosenthal, Professor of Philosophy Emerita at Brooklyn College of the City University of New York, and while my advice has always been not to take my advice, I do write a weekly blog I call Dear Abbie, the Non-Advice Column. And so, dear listener, I invite you to pull up a chair at this virtual cafe table, no matter your gender, age, convictions, or style of life.
Married Philosophers Discuss Confessions. Part 1 continued. Married Philosophers Jerry L. Martin and Abigail L. Rosenthal discuss her newest book, Confessions of a Young Philosopher. In this episode, Abigail turns to a friend and begins to speak about what happened, bringing fear, uncertainty, and the possibility of pregnancy into the open. What she finds is not judgment, but a kind of recognition, as her friend responds with a perspective shaped by experience, rather than idealism. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Several points in the book you find a good woman to talk to.
Yeah.
And you find your friend Harper,
Yes.
who's also a Fulbright in Paris at the same time. And in talking to her, you tell her, what you're going through, and oh my God, I could be pregnant and so forth. Well, Harper told me her whole sad, comic, picaresque backstory. So, each person, you think you're all alone in some predicament, and then you talk to someone else, and if they're really a good friend, they say, oh, well, let me tell you what I've been through, what I've done, the mistakes perhaps made, or the difficulties I've gotten myself into, and so on. So you listen to her story, and you say, so this is what it's like to be real. And get your heart broke like other girls. So what you're going through, that's what it is.
Yeah.
What she gave me was that pearl without price, the feminine solidarity. But Harper, suppose I get pregnant. Well, she says, you'd have to get an abortion. And this was early days. We didn't have all this abortion rights and stuff. You'd have to have an abortion. If I'm still in France, Harper says, I'll go with you to Sweden. But Harper, I looked down to think and then into her eyes directly. Is an abortion a sin? She shook her head, gave me back a look of pure kindness. Southern kindness. She was from Virginia, I recall. There are many sins, my dear. Now, I don't know what it is about that line, but it's always one line from the book I particularly remembered, and I've met Harper in real life, and I've always, you might say, loved her for that one line, and yet I don't think I could explain why that is so helpful. I can sense that that's a very helpful thing to say in this circumstance. But why? Why? What did that tell you?
It's almost the secret that women know, beyond. It's not a myth, feminine innocence. So I don't want to say beyond the myth of feminine innocence and high expectations and hopes. It's not a myth, but it's often the gateway to heartbreak. And then you scramble. What can you do?
how can you conceal the evidence of your heartbreak? Because the evidence of heartbreak diminishes your value in the marketplace, not of ideas. Sometimes people talk about the marketplace of ideas. I don't know what they're talking about. Uh, the good ideas undersell the bad ones. But in the marketplace of feminine eligibility, there's certainly a marketplace, and you can be worth zero. So you scramble there, and the Southern woman, unlike the Northern woman that I was, has a funny sense, and I don't know, I'm not an anthropologist or sociologist. It'd be interesting to track it if anybody cared about such things today. But there's a sense that we belong to the same, I don't know, the metaphor sounds masculine, fellowship of them what has been shot at. We're quite aware that you can lose that bloom, that Southern bloom with the parasols and the hoop skirts and the whatever, and the, suntan lotion. You can lose that thing, and your market value goes down below zero, and so you lie. Because where are you going to go? The moon? You still have to live on the plantation someplace. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everything because of small town gossip. And so you've got to know the arts of concealment. And a Southern woman who was a well-known writer said to me, "My mother told me that men are the enemy." See, that
I can just hear that in a Southern drawl. Man, no, the enemy.
Yeah. My mother forgot to tell me that, but the Southern woman, especially of those days, perhaps of these days, knew it. Men are sneaking out to do what men do, and then they're coming back and demanding innocence from women, demanding that this rosebud has never been opened. And you've got to play along. You can have a lot of power, but only if you give them the illusion of power. So these stratagems are not, they're stratagems of mutual bad faith. They're concealment, and they're coquetry, and it's deeply feminine, but in another register. And she was inducting me into that society. I can't think of the feminine equivalent. There was a combat cartoonist who talked about Bill Malden, who talked about the fellowship of them what has been shot at. There's a womanly equivalent of such a fellowship. And she was inducting me into that sisterhood of that, maybe you could call it, of girls who've been ruined.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Women whose erotic future has been compromised in some almost fatal way.
Yeah.
In part because of their behavior. And maybe, okay, there are those sins, and then abortion, well, that would just be another on a long list of things women have in their hidden resumes, the part of resumes they don't put in the front window. But every woman has them, and men have them too, but men might well be celebrating them. It's the part of the vulnerability of women. There's nothing to celebrate in having been...
It's a funny thing, I guess nobody sincerely wants those days back where your virginity was surrendered on your wedding night and you wore girdles and stockings in the deeps of winter and high heels in the snow, and pointy bras. Anybody who's outlived those days can't sincerely wish them to return. But there were underlying truths on the combat field of erotic life that were acknowledged then and have been publicly renounced, denounced, outgrown, transcended, whatever you want now. But I feel there's a French nasty novelist who's written a book called Pitié pour les femmes, Pity for Women. Those are sentiments. There's a 17th century playwright who writes, Est-ce que vous ne plaignez pas le sort des femmes? Do you not pity the lot of women? And there's a pity for the fate of women that has been suppressed, and it's like an erotic suppression. The vulnerability of women has been suppressed. It's censored. It's unacknowledged. It would give men too much power, blah, 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 blah. So it hasn't gone away,
Yeah.
And that's what my friend Harper was.
What she knew.
Yeah, that's what she knew.
Yeah. Well, you're continuing your relationship with Phidias, and I gather that the first, whatever it was, that was rather surreptitious and last minute, that it was itself manipulative, and you could call it a rape. And now he's arguing with you. Well, that was sort of spoiled, wasn't it? And we should do it again in the right way. Okay, here we go. But he goes on talking his usual ways, the materialist reductionist ways. You accuse him of sounding like Stendhal, who has this theory of crystallization, that love is just an illusion that happens in the human psyche. And he lays out the theory of how that happens, and he poo-poos your theory of crystallization, and you comment about this French attitude that he's, of course, part of.
Yes.
This French romantic, erotic culture. It wasn't, you say, that they make love unimportant. Rather, romantic love was a thing apart. One could die of it, get heartbroken, or demented from it. There was room for all that in their medieval tapestry. You couldn't make it the basis of real life. Phidias, if we should sleep together, please do not describe what I do clinically. Which is part of this back. On the one hand, there's an element of love here, even occasional idealization. On the other, there are these ways that happen more than once of bizarrely, to my mind, clinical language for what's taking place. And the clinical aspect is not the romantic aspect, right?
No.
And that's the part that I think you probably mean when you say it becomes something shopworn.
Yes.
That everybody's been here, done this, so don't think this is a special moment. That you're special. Yeah.
Yes.
This is Married Philosophers Discuss Confessions. What remains is not a simple answer, but the question of how to understand something that cannot be undone. See you next episode, or sooner, at dearabby-nonadvice.com.
Thanks so much, dear listener. If this added value to your life, I'd be happy if you subscribe.